We're in the Perakim Perek Zayin, and I said Baal Peh the following, and I was challenged, where does he really say that? And I'll remind you, and I'm going to show you where he says it. We'll do it inside, and wonder about it. But there is always again, let's just do a quick review. There's always the Maisa, if you will, of a mitzvah, and the kavanah of the mitzvah. The kavanah obviously should be l'shem Hashem. Why are we doing a mitzvah? L'shem Hashem. Why are you putting on tefillin? L'shem Hashem. Why are you eating kosher? L'shem Hashem. Shema. Shem Shamayim. There can be competition between these two concepts, because sometimes you can be so sort of obsessed with doing the Maisa correctly that there's no lishma, which is not our subject, but that is a subject. Then there could be a situation where we're so into the kavanah, which makes a lot of sense, because that's the part that's getting us close to Hashem, the kavanah, that you don't do the Maisa correctly. So there could be a person just that's saying Shemona Esrei and is being medayik to say every word exact, Baruch, Ator, like you can do like that, which is good, noble. But it's so much so that his whole kavanah is on that level of his brain, sort of a superficial level of his brain, like dealing with the diktuk part of your brain. And then there's the other part of your brain, or your heart even, which is saying, wow, you're Hashem, but you're not even saying the words properly. Or you skip the words, or let's just get tachlis, you know what I mean? I'm not going to bother with the words. I mean, nobody knows what people do with their private and short answer. Let's skip the words, I'm having kavanah now. So let's just do that. So obviously I think kula alma loy pligi that you have to do both, like you have to do the Maisa, because that's the way the Bria works, of machshava, dibur, Maisa. So everything has to line up. That's everything has, when you're aligned, so your machshava, dibur, Maisa is all doing the same thing. If I ask you how you are, so there's the words, how are you? There's the kavanah, like, wow, I really want to know how you are, and then maybe there's even a deep tefillah, hoping that you're doing well. So l'chayra, if I just think all those things, that's what it's like. It's important to have a lemaisa there. But you can ask the question, what if I'm having all these kavanahs? I hope you're okay, but I don't ask you how you are. So if I don't ask you how you are, so like l'chayra ikar chaser min sefer, it's like the main thing. On the other hand, if I just ask you how are you, with no kavanah at all, hi, how are you? And you can tell me, I just had a major stroke, and I was like, Baruch Hashem. Yeah. It's not even listening to the response, so that's also nothing. So what's a Maisa without a machshava without a Maisa? That's the subject of all these Perakim, but particularly Perek Zayin. So obviously, the shita here is that the Maisa has to be done correctly. Obviously, that's the shita of Reb Chaim Volozhin, and clearly it's a polemic against those that are too madgish the machshava, which they got to be good people, but they're too madgish the machshava at the expense of the Maisa. So the obvious example is that they're going to daven shaloi bizman because they're going to daven better. Okay. That's like the obvious example. And I think, by the way, it's a superficial mistake that people, like Hasidim aren't makbid on zmanim, and the Litvish are makbid on zmanim. So first of all, it's not true. I don't know, I see both. But he's just giving a mashal to a bigger Indian, like, let's say that you lose the outer technology of the mitzvah for some deeper kavanah. It's just a mashal. The mashal could be in a million different things. If the Maisa mitzvah is saying the words correctly, or should I be makbid on that? So everyone knows the Hasidic stories of the Barjitchever, I think, of the kid who comes in and he says Aleph, Beis, Gimel, Dalet, and we hold him as, what did he do? He didn't daven. What did he do? So he had machshava without a Maisa, but Maisa without a machshava is a turnoff. I have to believe that so many Jews throughout the ages have walked away from Yiddishkeit because they didn't see any meaning in it. So, it's got to be really meaningful in order to be compelling, and us to, our children to change our lifestyle that way. So your house should have meaningful mitzvahs, meaningful living. So how do we work with that? Now, that's the shaila here, and it gets into this idea of Avera Lishma, because Avera Lishma is a case of the Gemara where I'm actually doing an Avera, but I'm doing it for the right reason. I have a good kavanah in it. Yehuda and Tamar. So it was an Avera, but it was Lishma. And we're going to answer how that happened, Avera Lishma, with very yisoidistic arrays. Some we've heard, some we didn't. But what I said and was challenged on, I think that the Nefesh Hachaim, I know that the Nefesh Hachaim says that the Maisa is so important, much more important. It never should be at the expense, the Machshava should never be at the expense of the Maisa. And included in this is Avera Lishma, which is not Nogeya any longer, period. Koine Matan Torah, which we're going to explain. It's not Nogeya any longer. And here's the Chiddush, the big Chiddush, is that even if you'll do something which is not an Avera, but it's not something which is prescribed in the Torah, just you're doing your own thing. Examples, like I know enough Kabbalah to know the importance of eating apples on Friday, chakal tapuchim. I understand enough to know that this should be an Indian, and I can become a rebbe with my apples, and I can, I can get Hasidim. They're all eating apples on Friday until. You open up some sefer and the Minig Kamarna or the Minig that's apples on Friday. By the way, there is such a thing. I wasn't just making it up. So you could, yeah. I could do this job. Apples at the tish, yeah. It's no gay Tu B'Shvat. Also, so you can take it two ways, beautiful, you zeroed into something that nobody chopped before, some kind of a skula and some other way of getting close to Hashem, and it's Hashem Shemayim, as is the whole tish. Or you can say, what are you doing? You're in the wrong religion. We don't have such a thing in Judaism. Don't we have enough spiritual practices? You put on tzitzis, you put on tefillin, you give tzedakah. Don't we have enough weird things to, we have things that are it's not normal to put on tefillin. If the Torah didn't say to put on tefillin, you wouldn't put on tefillin. So why do you need to have more things? So what could be wrong with it? So I'll tell you what could be wrong with it. Well, first of all, does he say this? But I'll tell you what could be wrong with it. And it's a very deep thing. What could be wrong? So I'm eating apples on Friday and I'm Yotzei Daf with Kabbalah. Am I bothering anybody? Am I hurting anybody with my apples? What could be wrong with it? What's wrong is this. That what could be wrong is that the idea of just about all the mitzvahs is to bring the world of Shemayim, the world of Hashem, into this world. You bring it into this world. That's the ishtalshlus. Machshava, dibur, bring it down l'maisa, l'sakei l'olam b'malchus shakai. Shakai is mara the shame gashmias. Misha amar le'elamoy die, yermil etzara seder die. It's the shame of the bria, shakai. You have to be very careful with this. If we really believed what we're doing was we're bringing certain energies that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, certain types of Kedusha, certain types of Shechina into this world, coming through these mitzvahs. Now, let's say I'm an engineer and I want to open another line, apples. I'll do something different. So, of course, Bal Tosef, not allowed to add on to the mitzvahs, but that in itself, why not? But even a sort of a benign, not bekvius, spiritual practice that I feel is giving me chizuk. I feel it's giving me chizuk. So I'm opening up another line. Who says that Hashem wants that form of ruchnius in this world? Could be you are doing something, but could be that in itself is the problem. What?
Why is it a problem?
Because Hashem has this plan for the world, and He told us exactly at Har Sinai, this is what you need to do to be Masakin Olam. Who says you should do something else?
The classic example is wearing tzitzis. We know that Hashem wants us to wear tzitzis, but this shirt does not require one, and therefore I don't have it. I don't have to. So I do it only because I want the Indian to do so.
Okay, but we know there's an Indian to do that. The Torah says. No. Here we're talking about something else. We're talking about a hack. We're talking about, I've got a hack for that. Let's call it a hack. Let's call it a segula. I have a way of fixing that. I know enough to know how to fix that illness that you have, or stem, like how to feel more spiritual. So on the one hand, like the more the better. I'm not taking a side in this. I'm just saying this is the chakira. On the one hand, and it's an important chakira. On the one hand, the more ruchni the better. If you've got another way, so do it. On the other hand, we have a religion here called Judaism, and it's very, very medayek. So now you're getting under the hood. You're doing stuff. You see all these things. You buy a computer. You see all these things you can do to make your computer go faster, to make it go this, to make that. Like these are hacks you can do with your computer, with your car, with your blender. You can do all kinds of stuff to make it change. I'm actually interested in it a little bit. But there's all kinds of hacks you can do to improve your body, even. So can you improve on HaKadosh Baruch Hu when He said, Taryag mitzvahs? I just give you a mashal. But I remember. Years ago, there was a fellow about Shuvah, wonderful tzaddik, but there was about Shuvah saying he had to get divorced, which was a good thing. His divorce, that was a good thing. It was a simcha, his divorce. But I brought in, which was my custom at that time, to upstate New York. We brought in, I say upstate New York because it was Rochester, Syracuse, Albany, Buffalo, take all the Gittin together and bring in Rav Greenblatt to take care of the Gittin. He was probably the biggest bucky in America in Gittin, and he would come in. So, this fellow, the Magaresh, so he was a professor of artificial intelligence and computer science, and he was also had another doctorate in linguistics. And so he knew his language, he knew his engineering, he basically knew everything. He was a real smart guy, eccentric type of a guy. Professor, like everything you think about a professor, that's him. His hair is supposed to be combed this way, it was that way. That type of a thing. Anyways, coming to the get. So Rav Greenblatt, she's standing here, he's sitting here, and I don't know if anybody has had the great simcha of being at a get. If not, you should never know from it. But sitting at the get, and there's a language that has to be used in the get. So part of the language is, there's a language. So he takes the get, and he holds it over her hands, and he says, I'm giving you this get, and I'm giving it lishmi, lishma, l'shem haget. That's the lashon of that's the nusach that you say. So he's saying to him, repeat after me. So here's this rabbi, and he's saying to this professor, repeat after me. So, okay. He was very nervous about the get altogether, just because he was nervous about everything. But he was nervous about the get. So he says, I give you this article of divorce. So the guy says, I give you this article of divorce. And he's like, what the world does that mean? That's not the right way to say it. And I put it in your hand. And I put it in your hand. Lishmi, lishma, l'shem, especially for me, especially for you, and especially because of the article of divorce. So he says, the repeater, he says, I give you this get, I'm doing it for me, I'm doing it for you, and I'm doing it for the divorce. Ret normal. What do you, especially for me, especially for you? So he changed it. This Rav Greenblatt, and I've been probably 50, 60 getting with him, he literally bangs at the table and he says, don't improve upon Shakespeare. If you're going to read something from Shakespeare, as we all have, you're going to read one of the books of Shakespeare, you think to yourself, I could have written this in a much nicer and easier language. What is he drain a cup? Who needs it? But this language has been formulated with Rav Moshe Feinstein over probably 60 years. the last 60 years. He's been formulated to have it so exact that the get is chal, even in English, and everything was so meduyak. And these get, and here's the guy, I'm going to improve upon it. So, don't improve upon Shakespeare. And I think about it all the time. Let's take it a step further. If Hashem says, this is the way you should put 7 wraps on your tefillin. It's not baltoisiv to put 8, but don't put 8. What are you improving upon? What we have a Messiah from? And if I have other spiritual practices which are, now this, you don't know what to include in this. You include singing a niggin. You include a rikud by lechadoidi. What do you include in this adding on? I'm not talking about baltoisiv. What do you include on it? And is it a good thing or a bad thing? So he says here, let's leave this paragraph together before we go further. Clock is broken, so I'm a little bit dangerous here. So let me. Yeah. Gam yirlecha panim leimar. He's talking now about the Yetzer Hara. Let's just read the words. The Yetzer Hara will say, thank you very much. The Yetzer Hara will say, I say everybody's worried about it. Let's say the Yetzer Hara says to you, Gam yirlecha panim leimar. Here's a quote from the Yetzer Hara. Kicheid suvesi, I have already commanded you. Leilech be'ikvei avosecha, you should act like your forefathers. Walk in their path. HaKadoshim. B'chol tzadikim arishonim, act like the original tzadikim. He means the tzadikim in the Chumash. Shayu kodim shnit natar. What then do we need the story of Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Yosef? What do we need the story for if not to teach us how to behave? This is the Yetzer Hara talking, don't forget. She'ikir derech avidasam lo yisbarach haisa. And what was the derech of Avraham Avinu? What was the derech of Yitzchak? The derech was shekol ma'aseihem v'diburam u'machshavtam b'chol inyaneim ba'olam hayakol b'dveikus v'taris machshavtam l'shem shomayim. They came to the point where everything they did, Yitzchak, Kadosh Hashem, everything was l'shem shomayim. You won't find anything in his behavior that we know about or we don't know about, which wasn't 100% an effort in Yichud Hashem. That's what they were. Now I want to do the same thing. They moved everything upwards. There was nothing secular in their world. There was nothing regular in their world. Everything was for the Hashem. Now, next words. Please look inside if you have a book. In whatever they did, Yetzer Hara. Any way they wanted to do it, and whenever they wanted to do it. It was open. They had that kind of a life. They weren't meshubed like we are. To Baisim and mitzvahs kvoyim. Which mitzvah is that? They weren't meshubed to that. V'sidurim, they didn't, I'm saying it in a prost way, they didn't care. They didn't care what the Zman Tefillah was. Yitzchak made up the Zman Tefillah. He didn't care. Come on, Yaakov Avinu all of a show. Take Yaakov Avinu. Meaning soid lavan v'hamaklais. When he did all that fancy stuff with the sheep. So Kabbalah is full of explaining in the Yitzchak Chaim. So there's the Shar HaKudim and Shar HaLikudim. In the sefer Kavanos of the Arizal, Akudim, what he was doing there, Al Pi Kabbalah, was he's leaving Lavan's house and he's working out how to bring into this world Akudim and Nekudim, which has to do with the Or Makif and the Or Elyon. The Beis Yosef, the Shulchan Aruch, had some kind of a revelation of the Magid. Like a malach came to him and explained to him, Shaya Toifer Manalayim, the Chanoich was a shoemaker, Ubechol Zman Debayel Machta Besad Lahavim Beshabech Lukut Shabrichu. And somehow he worked out that through these stitches, he was able to be miyached. He wasn't just stitching the soul, but he was stitching the soul. He wasn't just making shoes, but he was thinking that the shoe was a na'al It represents Gashmias and Olam Haza, and Hashem said to Moshe, Shal Dalecha Be'al Raglecha. That's what it says in the Bais Yosef. And this had to do with, the klipa of now. So that's what Chanoich was doing, and this was a Gilui. There was Chanoich, like before the office. This was a Gilui of Torah. So says Reb Chaim Volozhin, Chazal say that they kept the Torah just like we keep the Torah. So he says, so don't get this wrong. Don't be mature about this understanding. It wasn't that they had mitzvahs like we had mitzvahs. They were able to, like it's just, he's saying, that to think that Avraham Avinu kept Kol HaTorah Kula the way we keep Kol HaTorah Kula. No. They were coming from someplace else in Godson, a completely different place, and they were mechavein with their neshamas and their nevuah. They were mechavein if Avraham Avinu put on tefillin, which I'm a little bar early, that he put on tefillin the way we put on tefillin. But if he put on tefillin, he came up with this idea, and he wasn't meshubed to the tefillin that we put on. Or he could have done all kinds of spiritual practices. Now, this is what's interesting. Everything that they did was holy. But some got into the Torah and some didn't get into the Torah. The Rambam says, Hilchos Milah, he says, when we do, at the beginning of the Torah, when we do a bris milah, we don't do it because Avraham Avinu did a bris milah. We do it kikach tziva lanu HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'Har Sinai. What does that mean? We're not imitating Avraham Avinu. That was kind of mountain Torah. He was a spiritualist, and a tzaddik, and a prophet, and even the basis, the ad kedei kach that HaKadosh Baruch Hu to listen to some of his stuff and institutionalized it. Is that the word? Like in Har Sinai, he said this yes, this not. So just finish a paragraph. They had the rishus nesuna lahem lav tegam b'ma'asim v'inyanim acherim. Again, my point. They had the rishus to be oived as Hashem with their shoes. We don't have any such thing. They could do all kinds of things. So, the yichudim that Avraham Avinu made and the Yitzchak Yaakov with the sheep, this has nothing to do with us. You see, Levada mitzvahs, besides for mitzvahs, Afgam Lavar Aleza mitzvah Shalei Torah, they can even go against the mitzvah of the Torah. They were not part of Torah. You see, this gives new meaning to the idea that Rashi says at the beginning that the Torah could have started with HaChodesh Hazeh Lochem. So, we're all asking, what do you mean? It started with Shmois, HaChodesh with Parshas Bo, this week's HaChodesh Hazeh Lochem. What happened to Avraham Avinu, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Yosef, brothers, all the stories.
The book of commands, start with the commands.
That's right. Like what do we need to know even what they did? Rashi gives a funny answer there, but we don't even have to know it. Because that's not, if it's a book of commands, start with commands, meaning, like it's actually confusing. Because we're supposed to say all the time, Monsey, Agia, Maisa, L'maisa, Avoisei. Where would we be without Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov? But this gives new meaning to it because they were not keeping Torah. And they were even over on Torah. And certainly, they did many things that were just regular things and they turned them into mitzvahs. And we don't even know what they were. Some we know, some we don't know. Hakol lefi sharo kefi sharo, you see, according to their individual understanding. But there's no halachas to learn. Eid l'meidim b'kodim matan Torah. The Gemara says a klal. You can't learn any halachas. Avraham Avinu ran into the kitchen and he got basar v'chalav. Beseder. That's what he did. And did he wear a yarmulke while he was doing it? It was a different thing. So we have today, since Matan Torah, we have a Torah. We have mitzvahs. We have a constitution. We have laws. How they came about,
Seems to be the first one trying to explain, even by Challah wasn't, Challah trying to explain that they actually kept the actual mitzvahs.
They didn't. I mean, according to this, they didn't. Let's say. But the Rambam says clearly, even if they did, that's not why we do it. Sugatrofen, that's what they did. But it's not. It wasn't what it was. It wasn't what we do. Not they were. People say it was Avraham Avinu the first Jew. So I don't know. I don't know what the but the Pashto says no. Was he the first one to discover monotheism? Yes. Is he our father? Yes. He's our forefather. He's the founding father. The first Jews are Matan Torah.
It was an Ivri.
Yeah. Avraham Ivri. He had to be a Jew before Yehuda. But even after Yehuda, we were named after that. But if you talk about how did the brothers, which we talked about for now, about 3 months, how did the brothers plot to kill their brother Yosef? The real answer is, who knows? Same as Yehuda and Tamar. Who knows what they were, the corrections they were making in the Bria, the Tikkun Olam, and the Abisham Abbases. Who knows? Are we going to sit here and learn, okay, certain times we're allowed to kill our brother? It's not okay today. You need a base din and a Sanhedrin. And as far as I'm concerned, as far as he's concerned, all these divrei Torah about, they could buy Yeshvu, Lechol Lechem, so they had a din of Sanhedrin. These are all, in a certain way, forgive me for being so strong, they're pilpulim shel hevel. They don't work. I mean, there's whole svarim written on them, on these cheshbonos. But the Pashat Pshat is Eidel Ameidim B'Koyda Matan Torah. What they did, and the things that they did, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't want to do bris milah. There's so many different things that Taka Rashi's right. Maybe we shouldn't even know those stories. But certainly, Eidel Ameidim B'Koyda Matan Torah. There's, of course, the Musar you can learn from them, and the Achnos Azorchim, but it's not what Torah mitzvahs is. So, therefore, finish the paragraph here. They were happy. Laver aleza mitzvah shleika Torah kafisha v'sigo is everything according to the way they understood it. Shazeh Indian v'abayis hapratas who nitzrach letikun oilamos. They saw, if I don't do this now, the world is going to be chaser. I must do it. I must kill somebody. I must, V'ayin mizeh b'seif shar ha'amunos Reb Shem Tov. He brings other Rishonim to say this. But that's not the case now. Now, I just want to have a couple of minutes. I just want to show you. Is his shita clear to you? It's a bit of a chiddush. But the biggest chiddush here to me is not that you can't do an Avera Lishma, which is already a big chiddush. There's no such thing anymore because that was only Koyda Matan Torah, as he explains. There's a Koyda Matan Torah, period. Before Matan Torah, they were able to. What did somebody say? Marty said last week. They got right into the wiring. Koyda Matan Torah, but not only that, but even something regular. Esther. So the Gra answers that question. He says that was Pikuach Nefesh for the whole Klal Yisrael. So she did an Avera. Yeah, it was a Jew. I don't know if she was.
But we learned that concept.
Again, it was Hatzalas Klal Yisrael. And I want to make my point again that the Gemara doesn't say it's good. The Gemara says it's better than Gadol Avera Lishma Mitzvah Shalei Lishma. It doesn't say it's good. It just says it's the lesser of two evils. But it's a shvach haraya from Yael, and it's a shvach haraya. Just like you could be Mechal Shabbos to save somebody, and get into Hatzalah ambulance and drive, because Hatzalah one person. So Esther saved the whole world. She saved the whole Klal Yisrael.
She had a psak.
Yeah, but that was the psak.
Right, I'm saying for an individual to say, yeah, I can do that, it's not.
That's right. So what Esther did was less of an Avera than, according to this, that we would say that every day I have a practice that I'm going to sing a niggin for 15 minutes. Now, it could be or meditate. So, I don't know what to do with those things. So let me just offer a beginning of an opinion here, if I may. But the subject is extremely important.
About the 6,000 years of Jewish history, don't we say the Torah started by Abraham?
Yes, it did.
We're not saying that here now.
Yes, I think we are, because Avraham Avinu was born in 1948, and in 2000 he started doing mitzvahs. But that, first of all, the Torah includes sefer Bereshis. But that's the first thing. But when it says the Torah started, it means the beginning of the development of the Torah. So to teach us about monotheism, to teach us about, but it wasn't canonized or put into law until 3,300. right? What about Torah? That was the Chiddush. 24, 28, I'm sorry. 24, 48, thank you, sorry. Which was 448 years later. Yeah.
500.
No, he's 52, right? So. What?
Born in 48. 500 from his birth.
He was born in 1948. Oh, but
It seems to go against what Volozhin was saying.
Why?
Because we're saying Torah started by Har
It's the
Sinai.
first, yeah, it starts with Har Sinai.
So it's not 2,000 years. Torah started.
No, the first kernels of Torah came with Avraham Avinu. So in other words, like we have an insight as to how the Torah was developed, so to speak. Avraham Avinu did Bris Milah. They did these things, but Eid Lameidim couldn't Matan Torah. But there was a milestone in Matan Torah where this is what you do, this is what you don't do, and this is the only way that the Shechina should be brought into this world. Other than that, you might be hacking, and it might not be right. You might think you're doing right. I always tell my kids, right? I always tell my kids, you can use the computer, but don't try to make it better. Like this is because it's once you start, like you're making it better at this, and like you don't know what you're doing. Like
Developers will never progress software. Each version gets worse.
that's right. That's right. I want to show you something very quickly, or not so quickly. Just start showing you the Gra on Megillas Esther. Pirush HaGra on Megillas Esther. So the pasuk says, a well-known pasuk, Bishna Shalosh L'Malchai Asa Mishtel L'Chol Sarav V'Avodav. Che'al Paras U'Madai. Right? We know the pasuk. So the Gra comments on L'Chol Achashverosh made a Suda L'Chol Sarav V'Avodav. He had Sarim and he had Avodim. What's a Sar? Let's give me some English here. A Sar is officers, governors, that kind of thing. And Avodav is his servants, the cleaning lady, the guy who makes him the food. That's Avodav. And Sarav were the big shots. So the Goin says, taking a Lauren Goin, the Goin sends us on this to the Gemara in Brachas Lamed Daled. And the Gemara in Brachas, it doesn't say that, but it is Gemara in Brachas Lamed Daled. The Gemara tells a story, which I'm sure everybody knows, but let's just... On Lamed Daled and Lamed Beis, the Gemara talks, there's a number of Gemaras here about Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa. Amru Alava Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa. Ben Doisa was an unusual tzaddik in his day. Unusual, even compared to his contemporaries, which were Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. I mean, these were big, but he was considered a big tzaddik. So the Gemara says a number of things about him. Let's get to the point. Where it tells a story that Ma'aseh Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa Shahalach Lilmod Torah Eitzel Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He left his place and he went to learn Torah by Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, who was the Nasi. B'chala b'nai shel Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's son became very ill. Amar Lai Chanina b'ni. Now you see, Rabbi Chanina ben Doisa was his Talmud. But he pulled his Talmud out of the base medrash, and he goes and he says to him, Chanina b'ni, my son Chanina, B'akei shel avrachim v'yichya, please daven for my son, that he should live. Okay, is a tzaddik, a Talmud who's a tzaddik in the base medrash. Daven for him. Hidiach roshei beit birkov. So Chanina ben Doisa put his head between his knees. Ubikei shel avrachim v'chaya, and he davened for the son of the Rosh Yeshiva, and the son lived. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai commented on this. He said, "Ilmalei hitiach ben Zakkai is roshei ben birkav kol hayom kula." I could have sat here all day with my head between my knees. Lo yishkichu alav. Nothing would have happened with my son. It would not have worked. My choice would not have worked. Okay, so he's making this comment about his Talmud, who's a tzaddik, Chanina b'ni. Amar lo ishtai. So the mother of the sick kid, what are you saying, that your Talmud is a more chashuv a person than you are? So he said, he's not a more chashuv a person than I am. I'm the Rosh Yeshiva, I'm the Nasi, he's the Talmud. Ella, Hu doime ke'eved lifnei hamelech v'ani doime kesar lifnei hamelech. He's an Eved Hashem and I'm a Sar Hashem. In my words, like he's the cleaning lady and I'm the governor. It's like a left-handed compliment, right? I want to tell you something about Kehillat ben Daisa, that in the whole Shas, I believe, I once checked into this, there's not one halachic memra for Kehillat ben Daisa. Didn't say anything. Rebbe's stories, but not one halacha for Kehillat ben Daisa. Check it out. It wasn't his tachlit. Rashi says, Ke'eved lifnei Rab, Ke'eved, this is Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai's explanation. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was a huge tzaddik, by the way. Like, make no mistake. It wasn't like, it was a huge tzaddik. I mean, he was Moshe Nefesh for Klal Yisrael. He was the Talmud Chacham of... The Kehillat ben Daisa. Right. The Kehillat ben Daisa was able to turn vinegar into oil. So all the different stories that it says here. Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai never turned, as far as we know, he never turned vinegar into oil. So he said that he's Ke'eved ben Bayis. Nichnas v'yotzei b'loi reshus. B'loi reshus. In other words, there's a certain license that the guy who cleans the president's office, Lahavdil, has. A certain license that he has. He can go in without knocking. Got to get the garbage, Mr. President. And he could probably talk. So here you have the guy who cleans the office. Somebody's doing that, right? The guy who cleans the office, if the president is there, you can have a conversation with him. Nice weather we're having today. Can you help me with my income tax? Whatever. Give us a real estate advice. And Netanyahu has got to wait for months for an appointment. So what's the going on over here? Because he's Kesar Lifnei HaMelech and he's Kavod Lifnei HaMelech. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said, I have a Talmud, Chalila, that he's Kavod Lifnei HaMelech. So he has this kind of protexio, or whatever you want to call it, that he's able to get the ear of the Melech. Ali Kesar Lifnei HaMelech, says Rashi, She'edi Ragel Lavai Lefanav. I'm not Ragel. So the Gra says about this, that this is the deep part of what the Megillah says, L'chol Sarah v'avodav, and we know that the whole thing, every time it talks about HaMelech, the Gra holds, which is why the Gra's Megillah is a little bit lined up differently. Every time he talks about HaMelech, he's talking about Hashem. So Hashem has Sarim, and Hashem has Avodim. Beautiful shot. Schar says the Sar, rather, says the Gra, Hu HaMoshel b'Torah. HaMoshel b'Torah. Eved, Hu ha'osek tamid biyichudim ubetfilos. Is that something? Like the Eved he's getting involved with yichudim and tfilos and doing stuff but he's not a moshel b'Torah. V'heim, and these avodim, avdei Hashem we're talking about, these avodim, heim, says the Gra, ha'chasidim ha'rishonim. It doesn't mean our Hasidim. The Hasidim Rishonim that used to meditate for an hour before Tefillah, that's him. That's your Kehillat ben Daisa. Hey, my Hasidim Rishonim. It doesn't say that everybody did this. The Hasidim Rishonim did this. So who are the Hasidim Rishonim? Shahim Esmalim b'Kavana Gedola. Zesha'amar klum Chalila Gadol b'Mcha b'Torah v'alzeh Heshiv Gam Loi. Elo shani doy b'Kesar shani baki b'Chol Chedri HaTorah yoser b'Menu. I'm a much bigger Baki in Torah than him. This is the Gra. So, by the way, there's nothing negative in here about Avodim. He was sitting in the yeshiva of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, and the yeshiva came to him. So to me, it seems like, excuse my poetic license, you had a yeshiva, you had a Rebbe. And they had two different jobs. The job of the Rosh Yeshiva, says the Gra, was to be a Moshel b'Torah. He knew a Kollel Torah Kula, and he led the whole Klal Yisrael. The job of the Rebbe, Reb Chanina, like the Hasidim Rishonim, was to be the Tzaddik. You have in the Gemara also, like Rabbi Tzaddik, he davened for all the years that the Chorban shouldn't happen. Tzaddik in the Gemara. There were certain Lamed Vav Tzaddikim. It's not about their Chachmas HaTorah. So somebody will say about Rebbe X, does he know how to learn? It doesn't really make that much of a difference. I mean, the truth is, a lot of rabbis know how to learn a lot, but it does. I mean, not to be underrated, but it doesn't really make a difference. It's not their job. Their job is to be miyachid yichudim and to see deep into your soul and to be able to be madrach you. The Nefesh Hachaim seems to be against this. He's against this Rechanim and Daisa. I don't like it. That was way after Matan Torah. I don't like this. What's he doing? Miyachid Yechudim in a way that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai wasn't able to do. Chassidim Rishonim, Chassidim Achrayim. So you have here a bit of a conflict between the Gra and the Nefesh Hachaim.
There's nowhere, as far as I know, in Shas that has any negative to say about what he was doing.
Nefesh Hachaim says.
I'm saying the Rechanim, but the Gemara doesn't say.
No, nothing.
So,
Nothing. The only one the Gemara says something negative about is Chornei Amago, another tzaddik who made it rain. And you know, he's also doing stuff like making circles and like where did you find the circle thing? So so the Gemara says, you know, look, you come from a good family. If you would be in the Chornei Amago, there was 3 generations of Chornei Amago. If you would be in that family, I would excommunicate you. I would put you in Cherem, because. And by the way, the historians go to town with what was the hashkafa of Chornei Amago. Historians don't want to go into it. They're not so sure that he believed as a Jew even. But so I don't know what's Emes, what's not Emes. But the Chornei Amago III, the one who made the circle and got the rain. These are spiritual practices which the Nefesh Hachaim is against, because I think he sees that they're 2 things. First of all, they're at the expense of the practice, and B, maybe they're bringing the Shekhinah into the world the wrong way. So, but according to him, it seems that he's in conflict with his Rebbe, the Gra. I don't see any way out until on Sunday we learn the Reb Tzaddik, which hopefully will solve the mavucha. But it is a mavucha, and I just look. If nothing else, we should all think, you know. Do we run after? Here's what I think is Lamaisa. You know, it's something that bothers me, probably because I have myself this weakness. But like you see, people will run after a segula faster than they'll run after a mitzvah, and it's a pliyat summa. I mean, a segula, if anything, is extra credit or some kind of an extra thing. But look, school gadol mizud that I'm putting on tefillin in the morning. So, you know, and if you'll say to somebody that, because I just had this conversation with somebody that I'll end you with this story, beautiful story actually. Can I indulge me to tell you this beautiful story? But I'm going to bring out a point. But he was this fellow Hasidic guy, completely Hasidic guy. He learned by the Tasha Rebbe in Montreal. He's American, I think, from Williamsburg, but he couldn't really speak English. And the Tasha Rebbe was having a certain problem, and the Tasha Rebbe was a big tzaddik. The Tasha Rebbe told him he should learn Basayin. We have the sefer here. Sorry, Basayin, that's the name of the book. He was a Talmud of the Maranayim, right? And who was a Talmud of the Baal Shem Tov. So he was right there. Some say he was a Talmud of the Baal Shem Tov directly. But his sefers, for all the Hasidic Sfarim, I find that it's the hardest. It's harder than the Sfas Emes or the Novel Melech or the Kedushas Levi. It's like a Kabbalah. It's very complicated. But apparently there's a skula, if you learn Basayin, that you'll have Yeshuas. Hashem will be poil Yeshuas for you. So you can all we can have 10 copies of the Basayin. Yeah, now. Or not. So no. So look, yeah. So no. To this guy's like he learned the Basayin, very hard sefer, and I've tried to learn the Basayin. It's very hard sefer. It's like a lot of Yichudim, exactly this Yichudim and Kabbalah. It's hard. But this guy, his name is Mendelowitz. So Mendelowitz wrote a pirush over the years because the Tasha Rebbe told him. He wrote a pirush on the Basayin, and so he's explaining all the difficult things in Hebrew, and he said he didn't know if it would work. It wouldn't work. Anybody's interested, not interested, but he did this like but he really learned it, and he said he's holding now by his 14th print. I mean, it's like he's sold already 14,000 of them, which is a lot for a sefer on the Basayin. Now, so Kol HaKavod said he learned it up. And, I asked him, by the way, so have you seen Yeshuas? He says no. He said, I'm alive, I breathe, but I'm not, the Yeshua that I needed, that's what he told me. It was very honest. So stop. Here's the interesting part of the story, and then there's a moral of the story. The interesting part of the story is you have to go to what he called Colorado, to a medical thing for his son, Colorado. He went to Denver. But he said, ja, gibt so ausgespreite Platz in Midbar. Tells he went to this place, Colorado. And I don't know, he doesn't know if I heard of it. I said, no, I never heard of it. Yeah. And he went there, and he had to be there for like a week or so. They have there a shul. They have a shul in Denver. And he, right? They have a shul. The shul, he said he was spending time there. He didn't have what to do all day. So he said to one of the people in the shul, he says, is there a Bais Hachaim here? Is there an old cemetery like that goes back? He's very interested in cemeteries. So they told him, yeah, there is an altar Bais Hachaim. He found like a European guy. Nobody goes there. Nobody's buried there anymore. He told him where it is. He says, and who's buried there? I don't know. So he went there and he spent the whole day looking around at the sort of a Hasidic thing to do. He's looking around at the Kvarim, and they're old Kvarim, knocked over. You could hardly read them. And he finally comes to one guy, I forget his name, some Zalman Ben Gershon or something, no last name. It said that he died, whatever came out in Hebrew, I think it was 1860. Old kever, Talmud Bas Ayin. So Zugetroffen, like this guy, he goes to Colorado, and he's going to some cemetery nobody goes, and he stumbles upon the kever of a Talmud of the Bas Ayin. He runs back to the shul. Who's this guy? No last name. Nobody knows who he is. Never heard of him. Never know who's the Bas Ayin. Who's this guy? Nobody knew. 1850. Nobody knows who he is. And he goes home. But it was like an amazing experience for him. 3-4 months later, he gets a call from a guy, as he called him, a Reformed Jew, a Reformed Jew. And the guy calls him and he says, I heard that you were here. The rabbi told me that you were here. He said, I'm not Orthodox. But the grave that you saw, that's my grandfather, my great-grandfather. He says to him, and the rabbi told me you were looking at it, and it came up in conversation, so I'm calling you as my great-grandfather. Whoa, who are you? What's your name? You get the whole history. And he was a student of the Bas Ayin, so the guy said, who's the Bas Ayin? I don't know who the Bas Ayin is. I mean, a lot of people here don't know who the Bas Ayin is. So who's this Bas Ayin? So he said, he's a big rabbi, Talmud of Baal Shem Tov. He's going to go on and on to meet, I think, to him. So he said, but if my great-grandfather was a student of the Bas Ayin, I would love to read it. Yeah, right. He's going to read them, you get good luck, So he says, I can't read it. It's not so simple. It's a very complicated, even if you know Hebrew, it's simple. So he says, well, isn't there a translation of it? So he says, no, nobody's translated. So he says, okay, how much does it cost to translate? So he says, well, you'd have to hire a guy and this and that. So he says, okay, I'm in. I'll pay for it. So I think we're publishing now a translation of the Bas Ayin. I have to ask Gedolim if it's the right thing to do to publish. But this is the story. What's my point in the whole story? Like this was all Laman Haskula. Like, what does it mean to learn Torah Dvar, to learn Bas Ayin, to learn Nefesh Hachaim? Because it's a skula. That's taking something. That's not what. Is that what the Torah Dvar wanted us to do, or the Bas Ayin wanted us to do? Just have this book in your house. It's a. Yeah. So people are running after. This is what I'm saying. This guy is a tzaddik, and he learned Bas Ayin. He knows it well. I'm not. The Bas Ayin was certainly. I'm not criticizing anybody. But I'm wondering about. First of all, I'm wondering why this guy sponsored. But I told him it's a big school. But it's schwer, intellectually schwer to me, that if you'll tell somebody that if they'll go to the Kollel 40 times, they'll have a Yeshua. They'll run b'mesiras nefesh to the Kollel 40 times to have a Yeshua, as opposed to, listen, if you'll daven mincha b'kavana 40 times, how can you not have Eliyahu Nena a little bit tefillas mincha? So again, I'm coming across like this big misnagid. I'm not. Right. Well, it was probably somebody would tell me I would become like a gazillionaire by going to the Kollel 40 times. I'm in. I have no problem with it. But I'm just saying, or somebody was sick and I can help them. Of course, I would probably do it. But let's divorce what you would do and I would do with the psychology here, the ruchnius of this. One is Torah, and want to bring Shechina into the world so we can have a refuah shalem in a certain way, we can have Pardes in a certain way. And one is alternative religious practices, which doesn't say anywhere, presumably, I don't think it says anywhere. It doesn't say anywhere that you should do this. So according to Nefesh Hachaim, what's going to happen is you're going to miss the Zman Tefillah and Tefillah B'tzibur and everything else and Bittul Torah just to get to the Kollel there 40 times. And, again, would I do it? Would you do it? Maybe. But you have to question whether this makes any sense at all, or is it not just alternative religious practices, but in fact, even a different religion, almost, when you come down to it. As I always say, if you need a shidduch, go to the gym 40 days. That's what makes sense. That's what makes sense, al pi gashmius, go to the Kollel 40 days, basically. So, okay, so I'd like to learn on Sunday the Rib Tzaddik. I tell everyone, in Mirz Hashem tonight, there's a chabur in the Sugyas of Masechta Megillah. Everybody's invited to it, even though it goes with our night koil. So it's a Shiurim and halacha at 8:45.